Welcome to the first Wednesday of spring with our weekly Wednesdays with the Burnett Group from Nashville, Tennessee. And as always, bringing incredible information from all aspects of home ownership, whether you're buying land, property, whether you're renting, everything that has to do with owning homes or planning to own a home, from the financing to the property itself and staging. But today is a very important topic that we've touched on before, but we're really going to dive into it again. When it comes to your homeowner's insurance, this is not a one size fits all. And we have the best in the industry there in the greater Nashville area. Cody Watts with Firefly Insurance. Thank you for being with us. Matt and Marty, great to see you as always.
Thanks for having us. And yay,
Cody.
spring.
Yeah.
It's sunshiny outside.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Cody, insurance. I'm sure that with a lot of storms, you guys are in a heavy area with a lot of weather taking place right now all over the South. What kind of phone calls are you getting? And are people panicked that they have the correct coverage?
Well, we don't really take that many phone calls from claims. If you know me well, you'll text me or call me. But normally people just handle it with the carrier, whatever carrier they're with. They go straight to them. There are times when I have to get involved, but it's pretty rare. However, lately we've had a lot of rain and a lot of water moving across the ground, and flood coverage has been a funny factor because how flood coverage works. And most people don't understand that it's not just the river that's rising or the creek that's rising and coming into your home. It's also water moving across the top of the ground. And we've had a couple of those where one client had water coming off of a hill that had never been before, but a new subdivision was being built, and all the water that was getting diverted ended up coming down, and it came down their driveway and busted open their back door and flooded their basement. Luckily, they didn't have anything in the basement. It was just concrete floor and block walls, but still had to get all the water out and all the mud out, and it was a hassle. And they didn't have coverage because they didn't have flood coverage. They didn't think they needed it.
So would that have been that would have been flood coverage? Was
Yes,
the only
sir.
way that would have been?
Yep. Water moving across the top of the ground.
What about, we've had clients also where, a lot of times gutters will get clogged up, or, that's very common. And so they'll just start spilling over and going straight down, especially in basement houses, and will flood a basement like that. That wouldn't be considered flood.
That would not be considered flood. However, your gutters, people have to be aware, and they have to perform certain maintenance, like clean your gutters out. And if you don't do that, it's not going to look good in the future for you. That claim will get covered, and then from then on, your premiums are going up.
Gotcha.
Right.
Well, and that's interesting because, even going in to salespeople's houses, it's one of the things I do. I walk the perimeter of the house. I look at the downspouts and the gutters and all that kind of stuff, because so often, even if it's not water in the basement, which you would have recognized, it could be water in the crawl space. And so if those elbows or the extenders are disconnected, that water's pouring straight into the foundation wall. All of a sudden, when we get these like crazy rains, you've got, this much water in your crawl space. And really a $2 extender from Lowe's could
fix that. Could have
prevented it. And once the water dries up, it, won't go in again. So that's interesting. You should mention maintenance and how, because a lot of people don't maintenance things like they should. But it's funny you should mention that the lack of maintenance could cause you in the future, if you have to do a claim, that your premiums go up. I did not know that. That is very, very good information to have.
Absolutely. And to your point specifically, it happened to me. I have some rental property, and I had one of the connectors from the downspout into the yard got clogged up, and so water was just backing up. And I didn't know. I don't live there. It's just a rental house. And then when I sent the exterminator over to get rid of bugs or whatever, he called me and said, "Hey man, you have water underneath this house." And we discovered that's what it was. That the black pipe had gotten clogged up, and we just ran an auger through there and cleared it out, and it's fine. But we had to get rid of the water underneath the house too, which is a whole other thing and not very fun.
No, it's not. It's not fun at all.
Expensive.
So what are some of the areas where people are, let's say, underinsured? What are the common mistakes that people just think, oh, I have homeowners insurance, so I'm fine?
Well, right now, almost everyone's underinsured. It's unbelievable because
I know, I believe it.
Because of property values rising.
Yeah, and you can't, and it's not just the sales cost of the house, because that doesn't really matter so much to insurance.
Replacement value.
Yeah, what's it going to cost to rebuild? But building costs has gone through the roof as well, and so what you could have built 5 years ago for 400,000 would cost you over 600 now.
Sure.
Right.
And almost everybody is underinsured. With our agency, we go through and look at every single policy every year, and we re-quote them. And in that process, we get a new valuation.
Wow.
And if the valuation, a lot of times people are overinsured, or very often people are overinsured anyway, just because of what it cost to build at the time versus what the sales price was. Well, the sales price was higher, so we would have to insure it for more to please mortgage companies. So a lot of times people are okay, but we are finding probably 3 out of 5 that we requote now are underinsured, and we're having to go back in and talk to people and have that conversation.
Well, I mean, it's a good conversation to have, and you better know it now and can adjust it before it's too late. I mean, once you have the claim or the house, floods or gets burned down or whatever that looks like, it's too late. It's too late to adjust that cost at that point.
For a simple question, in your scenario, if you had your house insured for 400,000 and it burns down, but it's really it would take 600,000. Are they just going to get the 400,000?
They're going to get the 400,000.
Figure something else
out of luck.
No, it's not a cost of rebuild or it's what you're insured for.
Yeah. And so a lot of people might consider selling because the land's worth so much more, getting that money and buying something that's existing.
Right. And that's true too. And that's another issue.
Whole other conversation.
Yeah. Around Nashville. And you can pick the high value areas will be, have a greater discrepancy than others. But, if you have a lot that's worth $300,000 or your house is only cost $300,000, you wouldn't insure that for $600,000, even though you would want to, because you know what you have there. But the land is always what the land is worth, and that could go down. We hope that never happens again, but it has happened. We all experienced it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think there's a misconception that you get your house, you get your policy, your mortgage is set, whatever that is, and then that's it. You walk away. I love that you're pointing out the fact that this is a continual conversation they need to be having with you and saying, hey, let's reevaluate. And you're saying once a year, everybody should really take a look and see what's in their policy.
Absolutely. Also, carriers change the way they do business. Very often. So what would be sufficient with one carrier today might not be next year. So, and then premiums fluctuate so much. And I'm not a big fan of moving clients from carrier to carrier every year, but sometimes it's necessary. And I would say every 3 or 4 years, it's gonna happen.
Wow.
Is that just where like certain companies have taken so many claims and paid so much out in certain areas, like say, when we have all the tornadoes or we had the flooding or whatnot, and so then they adjust and it may be better to shift to a different company that maybe wasn't as heavy?
Absolutely. Exactly that. And what happens in Ohio or Illinois, it does affect what happens in Tennessee.
Wow.
Right. So they got to spread it out.
Yeah, they're spreading it.
Companies got to spread it out. Yeah.
What are some besides the once a year check-in throughout the year? What are some things that people do? Let's say they added, clearly like added a pool or added some features to the house, added a big trampoline. What are some other things that they should be checking in with you if they've made changes?
Yeah, a trampoline or a slide beside their pool, or even a diving board nowadays. Most carriers don't want any of those three. If you do have a trampoline, then there's all the stipulations you have to go through. Same thing with a diving board. But any kind of improvement you make to your house. You know, I had a client a couple of weeks ago who just remodeled their kitchen, and there was nothing really wrong with the kitchen they had, but the kitchen that they added is incredible. And so it increased that value that much more. And so I said, you know, we need to increase your coverage. And they didn't really want to, but they ended up doing it. And any kind of upgrade you make to your house.
What about outdoor living spaces? A lot of people are really putting a lot into their patios and their indoor-outdoor living. What are some things that can really bump something up or that they need to cover?
Yeah, so like the other structures portion of your policy, usually you get 10%. It's included in the policy, which is great, but oftentimes that's not enough because that takes your pool, your fence, your outdoor living area, or your outdoor kitchen, and those things are sometimes crazy expensive. An outdoor fireplace can be 15 or 20 grand.
Wood burning pizza oven, somebody wants to add?
Absolutely that. And those things, they add up. And a lot of times that 10% is just not enough. It wouldn't be enough for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially as more and more outdoor things are popular, you know, out pavilions,
Oh yeah,
all that stuff, the outdoor kitchens.
And people are they're adding a lot of that stuff, and it's great ads. But you know, I don't think people. I'm like Amy. I think people get the house, they get the mortgage, they get the insurance set, and then they're good to go. And if they don't have, I mean, like we're friends, so you would come to our house, and you, even if we didn't tell you we did something, you might be like, oh, you know, hey, you did this. Have you guys? I mean, we're normal who wouldn't think about it. So I think it's important for people to think about as you upgrade and add to your house. You've got to protect it. You know, it's just the same thing like when you get a new car and you get new car insurance, you know, it's redone all the time. So with your house, you think about it, 'cause people stay there so long. I don't think they think about re-looking at that. Another thing that I know Matt and I've had conversations about before, certain things that are covered under insurance, like lost or stolen or whatever, like big pieces of jewelry.
I was just going to ask that.
Things like that. So I think,
what is that on personal property?
What does that look like? Yeah.
Marty just bought Matt a brand new Rolex. What do they do?
nice.
Fun, yeah.
I can't wait to see it. So
Marty did not buy that a brand new Rolex.
That either needs to be scheduled, or you need to have, if you have enough, a separate inland marine policy that covers those types of things. Anything, and this is my thought, it's not an industry thing, it's just the way Cody Watts sees things. if it costs you more than $2,500, you need to have it scheduled. And then sometimes if it's if you are already scheduling things, then anything that you want scheduled needs to be scheduled. And it's not cheap, but it's a whole lot cheaper than losing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
you just hear people say all the time, "Oh, I'm not worried about it's covered under my homeowner's insurance," but I think
probably not. And
right.
That's another thing. Your deductible applies to most of these things too. So if you have $1,000 deductible or $1,500 deductible, you have to deal with that. Now with scheduled property, the deductible doesn't apply the same, but sometimes it does. You just have to be aware of what your policy says because they're all different.
So walk us through that process. So Marty just got Matt his big Rolex. So they call you, and what is that next process?
I just need either the appraisal or a receipt, and I can add it to their policy.
Okay.
And it's about $1 per 100 as far as premium goes for the cost. So and sometimes it's more or less than that, but figure about $1 and you're going to be close.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's worth it. You're right. It's completely worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and one more thing I was going to ask too, and just talking about the scheduling and like the individual like things that you have in your house, that I actually had a client of mine, their house did burn down. I mean, all the way, they lost everything in the house. And I was just kind of talking to him about the insurance process and how, you know, they had to literally list it was a blessing and a curse at the same time. They had just moved from out of state, so they didn't bring much with them. So they purchased everything. So it was new enough that they did have all their receipts. So it made it real easy for them to be able to say, here's what we had in there, because it was such a new move. But let's say you've been in a house for 10 years,
right.
How do people protect themselves? I mean, gosh forbid that happens. I know it's a rare thing, but I actually know several people who have had house fires and lost everything. What are some recommendations that you have for people? Because I mean, obviously you've got the devastation. So you're trying to think and sit down and do all this, what does that look like?
The best thing for everyone to do, and everyone can do this now. Back in the day, you used to have to get you a video camera and walk around your house and then take the little tape and put the tape in the lockbox or somewhere else to protect it. But now we have the cloud. Everybody has cameras on their phone. Walk around your house in every room, open every single drawer, and just look and see the things that are in there.
Wow.
Because a lot of times what people you don't think about, every pillow that's sitting on your couch, every piece of silverware in your drawer, washcloths. I mean, washcloths are $10. You got 50 of those or 20 of those, whatever.
Right.
It's not.
Hey, if you're doing Norwax, they're more than $10.
Right.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Well, the ones I buy are $10.
You might question me when I say I've got $2,000
in towels.
In washcloths and towels.
Yeah. So
that's a great idea. I remember when we had
wardrobe.
we probably need to do that.
No, doing it today.
But I remember my dad, when I was young, walking around the house with that big video camera on the shoulder. I'm like, what are you doing? Videoing everything for insurance. Like, okay.
And now it's so easy to do it, But I bet you most people don't do it.
You're right.
Yeah, well, it's not something you really think about until you think about it. And when you think about it, it's generally too late. The great thing is you will have, when a claims adjuster comes to your house, if you have a total loss like that, they're going to do their best to get you every dollar they can get you. And they have a list of things that they can go through, and it details like the stupid stuff like paper clips. I mean, it gets down there to the nitty gritty, which is great. But if you have that video, then no one can dispute.
Makes it a lot easier.
No denying.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Right. Wow. Cool. Well, we know what we're all doing tonight.
Yeah, right.
I know what you just think about, like even opening up like your storage that you have, like your attic storage. I mean, Christmas decorations, luggage. I mean, that's stuff that you wouldn't like necessarily think about. But if I'm like, Cody, if you've got it all videoed, we just had ours all reorganized, so it's a perfect time to do it. Yeah. You can see it all.
Wow, this is powerful information. I mean, it just makes you think, and you're right. People don't think about it till it's too late. And I'm in Southern California. We're in a fire area, so this is common conversations and just making sure that extra protected, and just really, really great information. Cody, we really would love to have you on more often if you're open to it. I know you took away time and your clients to be with us, but there's so much to discuss. Like we could sit here for an hour, and it's so valuable. And I think this could be life-changing information for people. Don't you guys?
Oh, absolutely.
I agree too. And I'm more than willing to do it. Schedules are tough these days, but I moved things around to get here, and I'm happy that I did. And I'm grateful that you asked me to do it.
We will pre-record you. You're worth it.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I think people don't think about these certain things, and just if this could help someone, I mean, that's what we want to do.
Absolutely. Wow. And you guys come up with great questions and topics, so it's fantastic. Thank you.
Well, I hope that Cody's phone is flooded now from everybody in the greater Nashville area calling him to say, oh, please check my policy. What am I missing? And all of us are going to walk around our house, open every drawer, and video everything that we have. Thank you so much for the incredible information today. Matt and Marty, you always work with the best. Thanks so much.